What's up, everybody? We wanted to take a quick moment to remind each of you to please like, share, comment, subscribe to the podcast. Tommy,
Ring that bell.
ring the bell. It goes a long way to support the podcast. Besides that, Tommy and I offer online coaching. The links for that will be below. The link for my merch store will be below as well. And without further ado, we bring to you a Thinking Man's Podcast. A Thinking Man's Podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of a Thinking Man's Podcast. This is episode number 30. As always, I'm your host. My name is Joseph PIRCHER, and with me, my good friend Tommy Stiles. Tommy, how are you, my friend?
Good, man. Number 30. Racking them up.
Yep. So today we are going to take our first shot at previewing / predicting the upcoming 2022 Mr. Olympia. Tommy and I are going to discuss the contenders for the Open. We may even give some. I have a list here that I absolutely hate already to begin with. It's a super tough lineup, very deep lineup, difficult show to try to make predictions for, but we're going to give it our best shot. So, Tommy, let's hear it, buddy. What are you looking at? What are the storylines that you're looking at? Who do you want to see stand next to each other as a fan? Who do you think is a dark horse? Who do you think could upset and hurt some feelings? Let's hear it.
All right. In no prepared fashion, I like I'm just going to start with the dark horse because that's more fun. I don't even know if he's a dark horse anymore because every time he posts pics, everyone freaks out. But Samson Duda,
yeah,
I'm very excited to see him. I do think in a lineup, he doesn't look as awesome as he does right now by himself, which is the case with most people. But I do expect him to ruffle up some placings in the top 10.
Okay.
I would say I'm honestly like I think another dark horse because he's finally nailed conditioning is the big boy from Egypt, Hassan. Not a pretty structure, but
yeah,
massive. And AJ Sims had him dialed in this year. I think he's won one or two shows. So I think a big massive dude like that, if he's in condition, he ruffles some placings. I don't expect him to be top 5 or anything.
okay.
So those guys are my dark horses right off the rip. Now I would say a dark horse / like I have no idea where to put him is Andrew Jacked.
Okay.
It just depends on if he's conditioned, how his posing is.
Well, let's say from what we've already seen from him, like let's say he brings. I felt like he brought a pretty similar package both to Texas and Arnold UK. With just the lighting is just a little bit better in Texas, in my opinion. So let's say he brings about that same look. Where do you see him?
Best he'll do is, I believe, 6th.
Okay.
And I think that would be I just don't think he has, like, this is the Olympia, man. This is like,
I think he needs to be much harder than he needs to blow away what we've seen from him to sniff the top 6.
Stage presence.
If he's peeled, like if he's like
posing, conditioning.
Yeah. Even from like just like a glute ham, like, and how hard he is from the back. Like if he's on par with Ramy's glutes or Hadi or some of these guys, he should be right in the mix at the top. I would say that Arnold UK look, because the lighting wasn't really doing him any favors, man, that almost looked like a guest posing, or like he's six plus weeks out. So if he brings just that, again, that same relative look for a third time, I had that in my mind when I made my list, and I have him as 10th.
Yeah, I mean, I would be more surprised if he ends up 6th and 10th. Obviously, I'm just saying, like, perfect storm at the highest I would place him at. He's on and everybody's off, 6th.
Okay. All right.
But I'm more on your like I see him rounding out the top 10 at best.
So you think Samson and Andrew both are in the top 10, and then so another kind of newcomer to this lineup that we have then is Derek Lunsford to consider. So what do you think? What are you seeing from Derek placing wise? How do you see him mixing up the open lineup?
I can't see a way he's out of the top 5 unless he's off.
Yeah,
I mean, the guy, he finally brought it to the 212 to win that last year.
yeah,
He looked massive in May, standing next to open guys.
crazy. Yeah,
The structure, he's got a better structure than at least 3 of the guys that were in the top 5 last year.
agreed. Yep.
The muscle bellies are full. Like he's got the full package.
Yeah.
I consider who a guy works with to be an X factor. You know, what the hell is this coach? Oh, Hani. You don't have a better guy than that who's got experience. So they've clearly have a chemistry. I think that matters. I don't know how he's out of the top 5. He doesn't have a weight cap this year, whereas like previous years, that was something he had to think about all year long, was hitting that take 212 weight cap. So I just think the shackles are off and the guy can just focus on bodybuilding and not have to worry about starving and not bringing his best look. So
even so, like even with him nailing it and winning last year in the 212, I think and I have a little bit of a more of a look behind the curtain because of my time with Animal with him, but I can promise you his best look is nowhere near 212 pounds. No. I remember getting pictures that he sent us for like this exclusive thing for Animal, and I was the athlete manager, so he just sent them to my phone, and I think he was like 6 or 7 weeks out, 2019, and he's 231, and he was just dug out everywhere, and it was like, dude, you could just go out. At that point, it was still, even a couple weeks, I think, away from the Tampa Open show. And he was so good at that weight that he was considering just going in and winning Tampa in the Open. And then I think with this year too, this will give us some insight as far as what the ceiling is for Derek in Open this year. But I think next year's will be a better test where he has a full year with Hani where they let it rip. Because like you said, it's from a prep aspect, he doesn't have to worry about getting down to 212, but also they just had kind of a 1 foot in, 1 foot out off season where they weren't sure if he's going to get the invite. They're not sure if he's even going to make the weight again. So they from what I heard, they had to hold him back a little bit. So I expect big things from Derek for this year, but then really the following year, I think, is when we'll see what his ceiling is in the Open. I kind of want to frame things in predictions now, just talking about who we have compared to who, because I think I see things shaking out a little bit. I think I might be a little bit higher on some guys than the general consensus, but we'll see. How do you want to roll through some predictions? Are you taking notes right now?
Yeah, I'm writing down names and I'm just gonna.
All right, I'll read. I have.
You want to just who you got winning the Olympia?
I have Ramy winning. I think Ramy is going to bring. Right. Man, I feel like having a full year under his belt of actually training. He's releasing the supplement line, so it feels like he's really all in, and he's trying to bet on himself right now. He's betting on the 3-peat. I don't know how many more years he's going to do this. I feel like he's talked about this maybe being his last year or one of his last years. With all that said, with him knowing that he's going to release the supplement line, all this stuff, I feel like he was like, I'm going to be all in for 1 year. And I think he's just going to nail it and dominate. I don't know that there's a structure, conditioning, shape combination that can touch what he has. So I think Ramy wins. I think Hadi is gonna jump ahead and be second here. I think Hadi and Curry flip flop. Last year being 2 and 3, with Curry being second, I think Hadi jumps him and comes in second. So I have Ramy, Hadi, Curry as the top 3. I think William Bonac, if he's gotten his gyno surgery done, I'm not sure if he's gotten it done, but that was why he didn't win the Arnold. Assuming he's at his best, I have him 4th, Derek 5th, Nick 6th, Ian 7th, Hunter 8th, Samson 9th, Andrew 10th. So, lot to unpack, lot to digest. Let me get that written down actually. So, Ian 7th, Hunter, Samson, and Andrew rounding out the top 10. We had talked, like you were mentioning, like maybe an honorable mention or whatever the case is. I don't think that he'll be in the top 10 as far as how they judge him, but man, I'm excited to see what James brings, man. He's caught so much heat this whole year for doing like these refeeds that he's been doing and all this stuff. And here he is 6 weeks out from the Olympia. He's 270 and he's dug out, peeled from the back. So it's like, man, maybe he had something figured out all along. Let's hear your thoughts on all that. Who do you have winning? Who do you have, placing wise? Who do you have placing in the top 5?
I also have Ramy winning. I just think there's too much there.
Yeah.
If he's on, and again, like this is his going for a 3-peat, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So,
it's a legacy year.
Chad is again, experience with a coach, I think matters when you're talking about stuff like that. So Chad's no stranger to legacies and reigns. So
yeah, exactly.
2, 3, 4, 5 is tricky.
It is.
Curry's hard because you never know you're just going off. The only ones that are legit as far as what you've seen are his previous show looks, because I feel like they play fucking games all year.
No, I know. Yeah. Like I almost you just have to judge it off his last showing. Like he was pretty good at the Arnolds. He could have been better.
Clearly he won the Arnold. So he's still winning shows, big shows.
Right. He's still getting those looks.
He's not over the hill by any means.
Right.
I do believe he'll end up in 2nd.
Okay, that's fair. I struggled with that one too. I wasn't sure. I made a list at one point that had him still in 2nd, and I've reneged since. So I hear you.
I have let's see. It's tough. I'm gonna go. I'll give Hottie 3rd.
Okay.
Because him and Curry are tough, 1, 2, 3, and then
they are tough.
This is where it gets interesting.
This is where I feel like it's really anyone's ball game. From this top, from 4 back, it's any man. Like if you told me that
4 through 10 is harder than 1 through 3.
If 100%, if you told me that Andrew after the Olympia, I didn't get to see it, and then after you told me that Andrew showed up hard as nails and placed 4th, I would be like, yeah, can't wait to see the pictures. Like, totally believe you. If you told me that he showed up about the same and he was 10th, I would be like, okay, yeah, I believe you. So let's hear it. Who do you? I have Bonac 4th, Derek 5th, and Nick 6th.
Okay. So I'm going. I just think I'm going with Derek for 4th.
I knew you were gonna. Yeah, there's too much going on there. He looks crazy, dude.
Mass, dude.
Yeah. But it's all shaped perfectly. He's got this crazy combination outside of like his chest and his delts from the front. He's got crazy lines, crazy roundness and insertions, and man, all of it just flows together perfectly. Like his chest is gonna take some time, like as far as it looking really dense. But like, dude, you watch some of he posts like some shirtless training videos where he's doing like rows and stuff, and it's like, bro, you can see every fiber across like the most perfectly constructed back that you've ever seen. It's like truly like a human anatomy chart, as if you just constructed the perfect tie-ins everywhere. So he's going to be tough, man. He's going to be tough, and he's going to be 230 or more.
Yeah, and with his structure, 230 on him looks like 250.
Oh, it looks like, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's a short guy. He's a guy that's 5'5" or 5'6", like for people that haven't met him in person.
Is he that short?
He's tiny. Yeah.
Really?
Tiny. I don't mean tiny like in a
Yeah.
derogatory way, but just the height compared to the mass that he's carrying. He's a shorter guy. I remember meeting Phil Heath and being blown away by how short he was, and Derek is shorter than Phil.
Yeah. That's funny. I feel like bodybuilders lie about their height as much as their weight too. Because I've met Jay and multiple times, and I'm 5'10", like no bullshit. And
what
Jay
does he say he is? He's like 5'6", dude.
No, he's not 5'6", but he's every bit of 5'9" or shorter.
Okay, all right.
I've seen him listed at 5'10" before. So I don't know what he says he is, but
I lie the other way and say that I'm shorter than I am. I wish that I was shorter.
I'm trying to compress my spine to end up shorter. So I'm gonna give 5th to Nick. I trust that Nick's gonna be peeled. Structurally, he's compromised, especially with this lineup.
I'm also concerned, and it hasn't always stuck out to me. I've followed Nick for the bulk of his career at this point. I don't remember ever seeing body acne all over him the way that I see it on him right now. I don't know if that's something that they're going to plan on, they're doing with the hormones, and then they'll clear it up before the show or whatever the case is. But skin texture and skin like complexion, and then even the way that like a spray tan will sit on like oily acne covered skin is just a lot different. And at this level, every little 1% difference makes a big difference. And it's like somebody like, I bitched and complained about Hunter getting 4th last year ahead of Nick, but I'm not down there. Maybe that makes that much of a difference, because Hunter's skin and color and oil and everything is pretty good. Same thing with Derek. His complexion and tan are going to be perfect. Ian's is always perfect. So I am concerned about that, but I would agree. I think for what he has, it almost feels like he deserves to be higher than 5th in the world. But I would agree. I think that's probably that makes sense.
I think I did see something. I don't know if this is like a thing, but I just saw him post that he might be in Vegas for the rest of his prep.
I figured that's what he was doing, because he's continued to post from
there's a really good posing
out there
that a lot of people use out here. And then I will say, like, I live in the desert climate. Like, if you have skin issues, historically, they will be better in this climate than humidity. And where he's at in Florida is a fucking jungle, dude.
Yeah.
He's in Orlando for a very small amount of time for nationals, and I was just buckets. My shirts were sticking to me. And I'm from Michigan. I remember how humidity is. So I do think desert climate, if you acclimate to it for long enough, that can play a role in how your skin will
interesting.
How it will hold moisture, but how it will then take a tan. Because like I'm almost so dry at like I have to get glazed 3 times when I compete out here because it's just that hot. So if he is moving out here to finish his prep, I think that will definitely help him dry out quicker.
Yeah. It's smart. I mean, when you're in a situation like that where your full-time job is bodybuilding, you're talking about being fit. Yeah, why wouldn't you go out to Vegas and get a fucking sick Airbnb for 2 months and bring your friends, bring your training partners, bring a fucking camera guy, and go all in on it. So I think that probably sets him up to be his best, especially being back with Matt. Like you said, I'm totally confident we're going to see the best version of him. I just don't.
He added size.
Yeah. I have him 6th. You have him 5th. I think that makes sense.
Even with the structural imbalances, he's nasty from the rear. The ham, the adductors, glute, like he's
the arms, all of it, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah. Sick. So there's a lot of people that when they turn around, Nick, makes look poor. I would say he's exposed in the side quarters. Bigger guys are because he's shorter. But his side shots, the side chest is massive. So is Derek's though. So I got Nick fifth. This is where I'm taking a fucking chance here. I like Ian, so I'm gonna give him sixth.
I had him ahead of Hunter as well.
Yeah, I'm surprised that I'm doing this, but I'm going Ian sixth, Hunter seventh, and I'm bumping Bonac all the way to eighth.
He's one of those guys that if you are betting on some of the newcomers, he's one of the guys that has to be pushed aside.
I know. I remember last year I had trouble finding a place for him, and he ended up being like sixth.
Yeah, he was sixth last year.
So he was much better this year than the Olympia last year in his two showings. So he could make me eat my words and end up fucking fourth. So
could be.
I mean, that's a guy who's finished second or third before, right?
Second. Yeah, he's been second.
So it's like, yeah, that 4 through 10 is just like somebody's getting disrespected by where
someone's sliding all the way down. Yeah. I've seen some predictions where people give that slide to Brandon Curry, where they're just not sold that he's going to be able to do it again, and there's all these newcomers. I think someone like Bonac or someone like Curry would be in a lot more trouble this year if we knew that Samson and Andrew were both coming in peeled. But with them just being newcomers and big body, big frame, but also not the most conditioned guys, I think it's hard to break out or knock out some of those established contenders. So that's 8 then for you. Who do you have 9, 10?
I'm going to give 9th to Samson.
Yeah.
And then this is tough. I'm going to do it though. I'm giving Hassan 10th.
Wow. Okay.
That guy's massive and he finally figured out conditioning. So
he is massive, but he's small though. His structure is small.
Yeah, but he has freaky mass.
He does. His legs, dude, are crazy.
Yeah, the quads just hang in the front shots. And
yeah.
I don't know. I will see what happens. He
does his quarter turns, like his quarter turns to the side is a fucking horse leg, dude. It's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, you could fit a quarter in between that quad and hamstring and the side shot. That's how deep it is. So yeah, I think when we talk freak factor, like Charles Griffin's going to be freaky.
James, I think, looks freaky up there. He's a big guy, man.
There's this is hard to do, but he's misses the mark so often it's easy to do, but at the same time, like Akeem Williams could come in absolutely sliced. I mean, that guy's finished 6th before.
I was just gonna say he's been in the top call out. Yeah, he's been in the top call out, and that was a call out with some. You never know. And funny enough, like being from Jersey and knowing some of the people that I know, I have some insight because you always wonder with guys. It's like, man, why is that? Like, are they just not showing up in shape, or is it genetics, or is it coaching, or what is it? And it's funny enough, like that's just a guy from what I've heard, he just can't stay on a diet. Like he's been 3 days out and peeled out of his mind, and like, his coach and his girlfriend come back to his room. He's just smashing cheesecake by himself. Like just couldn't hold it for 3 days.
That also almost sounds like someone who like is in recovery for like recreational, like, they just 10 years of sobriety. And
man, I could drop some bombs on a couple of the top names that we know, because there's more than one name. I mean, all of us, I think at some point, with how long you're in bodybuilding and how bizarre it is, we all have an eating disorder that's just controlled and managed. But I've heard of a handful of the guys that we just talked about being top 10 contenders at the Mr. Olympia, where they just can't stay on a diet 3 weeks out, 5 weeks out. Which is it's interesting because a lot of these guys are the most gifted people in the world. And I know fucking low level amateurs that just would grind their teeth on cement if it meant that they were going to be in shape at a contest. And then these guys that are blessed to be at the top 10 at the Olympia can't stay out of the IHOP. So yeah, it's interesting stuff. So what are you expecting then? So you had Hottie 3rd. What do you just talking about him like in a vacuum, what are you expecting to see from him? Is that a physique that you like? I mean, I know it's like apples to oranges kind of compared to you being a taller, wider guy like that. But what do you see when you look at Hottie and like when you break it down his physique?
I love Hottie's. It's like the word that comes to mind is polish. Like I don't know if it's just if it's a cultural
100%.
thing, but
Yeah.
the way his separation is insane in the
Yeah.
muscle bellies, and like the lines are so crisp, the tan, the glaze, like they always nail it. And he literally looks like a statue. So I love how he just presents himself. And the muscle, like it's hard, it's nasty. It's not like you
Yeah.
can tell he trained like I've only seen a few
He's
training
moved
videos,
some big weights,
but
dude.
like
Yeah.
one thing that's cool, like there's always a team of like 17 people there cheering after a lift.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's so
Bro, they
camaraderie.
love bodybuilding in the Middle East, dude. They come back and
camaraderie.
they get like a hero's welcome when they come back, like a
Oh, I
parade, like
saw it.
down the canyons of heroes, like you're in New York. Like it's crazy,
Ramy's welcome home to Egypt was like they shut the country down.
dude. That's amazing. I wish that bodybuilding was like that here more so. Like it was like there was like a lot of national pride about it, because we have
You
awesome
know,
bodybuilders here.
you know who else is the country of Brazil? Loves it.
Almost anywhere else, dude. There's a greater appreciation for their athletes. I almost
Go look.
wonder if maybe because we're just spoiled because we have these four big sports and everyone in the world fights to come play on our home turf. And it's like we have the NFL, we have the MLB, the NHL, all this stuff. Um, so bodybuilding is kind of just like, it's not mainstream enough yet for us to get that type of. Plus, I think just the open use of drugs, whereas all those other professional athletes use drugs, the general public doesn't realize that. So
Well, I think maybe it's legal in a lot of those countries. Like anabolic steroid, you can buy them off like out
yeah,
of pharmacies.
right. So it's a different stigma than like their
Here,
bodybuilders aren't looked at like, oh, these guys are drug users or criminals.
yeah. What's weird in like some of the Middle East countries is that like citrulline malate is illegal or yohimbine, but
Man, I remember that with my time with Animal, like there's different shipping ethics or laws to every country. Like they would have to have different formulas. Okay, this is the creatine formula for the Middle East. This is the creatine formula for Germany. And there's all weird different stuff that's made illegal. I mean, um, it's interesting that everybody comes from all over the world to come compete at the Olympia here. Um, but yeah, so that's Hottie. And then we talked a little bit about Brandon. Um, so Derek and Nick, yeah, man, I think that both of those guys, we saw them
Derek,
stand next to each other at that guest posing, and I think the thing that stood out to me is not that Nick outweighed him by 30 pounds or whatever it might have been. It was that my takeaway from it was okay, these guys are about the same level of muscularity, and Derek is so much prettier.
agreed. I think you can extend it further to Derek, Nick, Hunter, and Ian. Like seeing the four of them next to each other
Yeah.
would be really cool because that's like a similar age ranges,
Yeah.
late 20s, early 30s.
We also, as fans, we also have a similar level of accessibility to all four of those guys. Like they're all very active. They're very much so the modern bodybuilders where they interact with fans, they're active on social media. So it almost feels like those are four people you really know that are up there, even for the average fan that has never met any of these guys.
Well, they're guys too that like, you know, saying like if it's just one of them entering any other show other than the Arnold, they win. Hunter wins
Right.
any show he does.
Right.
Ian wins any show he does. Nick wins any show he does. I mean, Nick's won the Arnold
Yep.
and the New York Pro. So Derek has an Olympia. Like these guys are like they're like the top tier of the mid tier right now, and they're just
Yes.
waiting. There's just a
Yeah.
couple more guys that like Brandon, Ramy. I don't even know how old Hottie is, but
He's
I
up
just
there too. He's in his late 30s, I believe.
yeah, they might. I feel like guys like that don't age as the same, but
Yeah.
so it's cool to see like that they're all in the same age range. They're all pretty much the same talent level as far as they can walk in any show and win. So it's interesting comparisons because Hunter, I think, will be the least conditioned out of the four.
Agreed.
I think he's
We've
got
seen it. He is who he is. We've seen it over and over again. You've shown us who you are.
Ham's glutes will be softer than the rest. And I think, maybe not. Maybe they nail it, but I'm going with history on that one. Ian, he does keep improving, but it's weird. Like, does it look like his size isn't as prominent on stage? Is it just how
I
he
was
presents
gonna
it?
I don't know. I was gonna say that I expect him, like everyone's talking about how much Hunter has improved. Everyone's talking about how awesome Nick and Derek are. I kind of think that Hunter is going to surprise some people if he gets to stand next to all those guys that we talked about for his thickness. I think his size and his width and thickness are going to stand out compared to those guys. Like those guys are all big and muscular too, but I think Ian's like density is going to be something. His posing stinks for sure. He's not doing himself any favors with it, and he's not the prettiest structure to begin with. But man, that's a ton of muscle that dude is carrying.
Oh, dude, his side shots are insane.
Yeah.
And he still makes that side try look
I
pretty.
think his back has come up a ton.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be interesting to see him because he's always razor peeled as well, like consistently. Since being with Patrick, we know he's just going to show up on the money. And I don't know that about Hunter. Like I see Hunter now, and man, I wouldn't be comfortable as a coach with how much still needs to come off at 6 weeks out from what they're showing for someone that is consistently not on the mark with their glutes and hamstrings. Like that's a guy that you want to see ready early ahead of time then if you had that type of reputation. So to know they're already going to be kind of pushed backs to the wall, we'll see. I mean, I hate to make criticisms, but that's just from what I know and from what I've seen from him. I think to question the conditioning is fair at this point because he's shown us no reason not to question it.
Yeah. I mean, he's structures there, muscle bellies are there. So, but I think if the X factor comes down to conditioning, I mean, that could easily be a placing or two difference.
Right. Especially last year, he was watery and off with his conditioning, but then also because he's pushing out water, like his oil leaked everywhere. And just truthfully, like to anyone listening, I was floored that he was fourth place. Like I still looking back at it, I feel like Nick was completely robbed. I honestly feel like Bonac or Ian deserved to be better as well. I felt like they presented themselves more professionally. With that said, if he were to show up and was dug out as Hadi, as Ramy, like conditioning on par with those guys, we could be talking about him winning the show and starting a reign of 5 straight wins. But it is just on him. And like the thing that I think bodybuilding fans get frustrated with Hunter is we see all this potential. We see the name that's on the back of the shirt. Like all of it is there. And it's like the most controllable piece of bodybuilding is just conditioning. So yeah, I think for fans, we just want to see Hunter nail it.
I think as a fan, I want to see every guy nail it. So it's that
Oh, of
fierce
course.
competition.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I want to
Oh,
see
dude, I would love to see Ramy, Hadi, Andrew Jacked, and Hunter all peeled out of their minds, called out as the top four. Like, show me those four. But we'll see. I know you had the whole list up in front of you. Is there any guys that we didn't mention as maybe top 10 contenders that you wanted to call out? Because there's a
I mean,
lot of really good bodybuilders that are
there's
qualified for
names.
this. I
Yeah,
mean,
there's
we haven't
names.
talked even about Justin Rodriguez, who I believe is going on points.
He's in on points. Antoine will be there. Valiant.
Antoine's good. Antoine's a big guy.
We already mentioned Akeem. Like,
Mm.
100% Akeem is you can. There's no fucking way he's not in the top 10. I don't care how good everybody.
I agree. I agree completely.
He's just as big as all those guys we just mentioned.
I think if Akeem was just
and-
at like
and
just
structure.
hands down at his all time best, he might be as high as fifth in this lineup.
Yeah, because he's got the tight waist too.
He's got it all, man.
Um, there's that big boy from Ukraine. I'm gonna butcher his name. Suhoriko.
Okay, yeah. Vlad, yeah.
Yeah, let's call
He's
him Vlad.
big. I like his structure a lot for open bodybuilding. Like I look at him
Yeah.
and like that's a big mass carrying open bodybuilder. On top of that, he's got decent shape and gets in really hard conditioning. I think the thing that's just holding him back from being elite is that waist, like that
Yeah.
midsection.
Yeah, it's tough when you have like that pure meso build, like you can put on gobbles of
Boatloads of
muscle,
muscle.
but like
Yeah.
it's never gonna look pretty.
Yeah.
And then another guy who I personally really like just everything about his structure is and his muscle is Rafael Brandao.
So that's a good name to bring up. So where do you see Roth, like how does he ever break through in open bodybuilding? Like he's so good. He's an excellent bodybuilder. Um, but I almost look at him and I almost feel like he's one of these guys that weighs so much that like removes himself from being able to be classic, but also he's just not big enough for open bodybuilding. Like I don't feel like he's ever going to be big enough for open bodybuilding.
I see that, and then I'm also like, I think the guy is only 28 or 29.
True.
So he keeps getting better every year, and I don't think he's trying to do it. At least this is my assumption, is they're not trying to put on 20 pounds in one season. Like
Sure.
just keeps adding 6 to 8 pounds of tissue to keep his proportions and to keep his strength. And then right now, if the current Mr. Olympia is massive, I think maybe they're just playing like, this is my age. I'm looking to make a splash when I'm 35.
Okay.
So if you keep adding, say, 6 pounds a year for 6 more years, like you're gonna have the size eventually. And then if like whatever, if the judging panel, if like what we look at open bodybuilding maybe changes, you
I
have this
agree.
aesthetic guy who's got size. So but I agree.
It's kind of burning at both ends towards it being a favorable thing. Like he's continuing to get bigger. The criteria at some point has already started to get more about aesthetics,
kind of
like
like
not
Regan.
yeah,
Regan wins tiers 4 and 3 shows, and never has been inside the top 10 at the Olympia. I don't even know if he's done the Arnold. So I think a guy like Roth is like, let's maybe go win the New York Pro eventually, and then that could leapfrog you to a top 8 placing.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
because he's got to. I mean, fuck, I would sign up for looking like that guy tomorrow. I mean,
yeah, no,
Jesus Christ, dude,
I
the
love that.
roundness, like the delts, everything from the front. Like he hits the most muscular from the front, and it's like just one of the nicest looking shots in bodybuilding. Like the delts, the arms, the chests are all super full. The quads are separated and round. Like it's an awesome look.
And
But then
then
I look at him too, and I hear you on the slower approach for sure. But then I also look at him compared to another Brazilian guy, like the guy that does classic. What Dino? What do they call him?
Ramon,
Ramon.
they both work with Aceto.
I don't feel like they look that much different. Like they're both similar height, similar strengths to their physique. Like, and that guy's like top 4 in the world in classic. So um
It sounds like that guy's going to be moving out of Classic, though.
I would that's what it looks like to me. Like if he weighs proportionate to how he looks, he's going to need to move up at some point. And I think he has the frame to do it.
Do you think if like all these big names, because I've heard, maybe he has to move up at some point. Like if all the biggest names in Classic and eventually Bumstead will leave, Terrence will leave. Do you think as a business decision, the IFBB increases the weights of
For sure. They may even go weightless at some point.
right? Which, because my favorite thing about Instagram bodybuilding is when someone says that's not classic, when some dude just looks massive, like he could be a hybrid open bodybuilder. And then it just makes me laugh because it's like it's still the same goals.
Right.
They just gave him different trunks and put weight caps to go with the height.
Right.
Still
And
size.
like other than at the very highest levels, like you're going to get a lot of these guys that are just crossovers between the two, and do classic because they make the weight. Like that's a huge part of the conversation when I hear amateurs talking about classic. Because well, I can make the weight. It's like, okay, but do you look like you belong in this division?
I just saw a video with like Breon is saying this is his last year of classic, and then he'll move up
To
So it's
212.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
He looks like he belonged. I kind of always felt like he looked like he belonged there, like the arms and the back, like
he came from 212.
yeah. And I think if he just brought up his quads a touch, like if the next 2 to 4 pounds that he puts on, a lot of it is just in his quads, he will look like a round 212 bodybuilder. And he'll probably be right up there. I mean, a lot of
Yeah,
these guys are pretty thick, but also we just think about how many guys just moved out of the 212 to the open. So there's room.
yeah. And then the last name in open would be just because he won 2 shows this year is Blessing.
Ah, that's right.
I
Interesting.
just think
So where do
he's
you
insane up top, not so insane below the waist yet. He does. I mean, if you look at his trajectory, he keeps getting better every year, and I think he's just like Raphael. Like, just stay on your path, stay in your lane. Don't don't blow up because that's where the division is at right now. I think he's a rather young guy. Like,
yeah,
you're already winning shows, so
right.
this is
I
your
mean, fuck,
Olympia
you won the New
debut.
York Pro, dude, and then we're going to
Yeah,
talk about this guy not even being placed at the Olympia.
I don't have him in the top 10. I don't think there's any way.
No, I don't either. No, I don't think he belongs there yet, but it just goes to show you how deep the lineup is. Like, this is a guy that
Right.
won the New York. And like you said, he won multiple shows. What else did he win? Did he win Indy as well?
Yeah, Indy and New York back to back.
I think he's super impressive. I like when compared to Roth, for example, like we were saying, like just the longer trajectories. I project Blessing's ceiling in open bodybuilding to be higher than Ramon or Ross, excuse me.
I agree.
I think he looks like he could eventually carry a freak open physique on that frame. And he's
Mm-hmm.
pretty much there already up top. Like there's a lot of freakiness to what he has. He
Kind of like
just
a smaller. He's kind of like where Samson was like 2 or 3 years ago.
or almost I almost feel like a lighter in the legs Akeem or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
not to just compare him to black guys, but thinking about it, like he's got that type of freak upper body. And I think he just needs to continue to bring the legs up. And when the legs are as excellent as his upper body, he's going to be a real problem at like the big name shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's good. I mean, when he's setting up to hit any front shot, his abs, his chest, his delts are just all coming at you off of his physique, and
Yeah.
that's just a transition.
Yeah. And the
Uh,
conditioning was much improved this year. Like it actually looked like conditioning and lines will be a plus of his as he
yeah.
continues to get better. So I think there's a lot to be excited about. But yeah, just another example. I mean, some of these guys that we name that aren't going to be in the top 10 are fucking champion all world bodybuilders like Antoine, Blessings, even James is probably not going to be in the top 10. And that's a fucking champion bodybuilder. Like that's one of the most muscular physiques that planet Earth has to offer. So yeah, good stuff. I
He's
think
not.
we're
There's
good
one other
here.
name that isn't on. He's not shown as qualified because I think this might be a little older. But is Tonio qualified? Tonio
He is.
Mertens?
He won an open show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's freaky.
He's a freak too.
I don't
And
have him in the top
depending on
10.
how they judge it, like it does seem like at the Olympia they are rewarding and wanting to see the big guys in the top call outs. Whereas like for perfect example, like Sean Clarita won an open show. I don't think that he is in the top 10 at this Olympia. Like you can be balanced and freaky, but if you don't have that big frame for the Mr. Olympia in open bodybuilding, I don't think you're going to get a look. Tonio is that guy's a absolute freak. Um, but another guy I just don't see cracking the top 10. That's another guy. I don't know what his weight was around, but it's like if you had that success in open and you're still only maybe 218 or 220 or something for the Olympia, I would try to pull it down, knowing that Derek is out and some of these other guys are out. I would try to pull it down and go win an Olympia title at 212.
Well, we can close it out talking about 212. I have the list.
Yeah.
So with Derek out, it's kind of, you got Clarita, Kamal. Those are the big names that jump out.
I think Keon wins.
Keon's in it.
That's my pick.
Bo Lewis.
He's good. I would say just generally, because I didn't dive into it quite as much. And I'm not quite as prepped on the 212 guys, especially with some of the guys moving up to open. I'm rolling with Keon. If I had to bet money on it, my money would be on him. I think that structure and shape and the muscularity and all of it combined with the approach that PIRCHER has, I think it's super predictable and consistent and easily repeatable of a process. So I think they bring Keon in and he wins. I think that Sean will probably be second. And I think if Kamal competes as a 212, he'll be third.
Yeah. I have Clarita winning it. I think
Keon
can take it. I just think Clarita's muscular density per body part is just going to be too overwhelming for the
square inch. Yeah.
For Keon. Because like I said, it just depends on what they want to give. But muscular and conditioning wise, Kareth beat Keon in the show he won is just a structure thing. So
sure.
I guess it's just whatever direction they go. But one name that's really cool to me, just because of this guy's, him, is Brian Balzano.
Freakazoid, dude.
Freak. He's going to be in the top.
That physique.
He's going to be in the top.
He's got to be. It's a shame if he's not, dude. That might be. I love Keon and his physique. That's like almost as ideal as you could get it. Honestly, there's nothing that he's missing. It's not like he has gaps in his back or he's got it all. Outside of him, I think Brian's is probably my favorite 212 physique. I mean, it's just freak everywhere. Like the conditioning, the roundness, the muscularity, it's freak description from top to bottom. So yeah, that's a great call out because I didn't even think to name him.
Every time I see pictures of him, because I think he works with Compton too, like he's a dark horse, man. He won that show this year. And then a couple other, like Angel Calderon's always a little ball of muscle.
Man, he's a freak too. Tough group. I almost feel like, didn't he compete in the Open?
He's qualified in Open too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right on. That's another guy though. If he's close though, that's another guy too. It's like, would you rather go be tied for 16th in the Open or would you rather go be 5th in the 212?
Yeah, it depends on if you at 12th in the Open might pay more than 5th in the 212.
It might.
If you got up that high.
But, you're right, but that's tough. I don't know that he's getting up there.
There's a lot of names that I don't know, though. I did see pictures of Bo Lewis yesterday, and he is for 6 weeks out.
Diced. Yeah.
So I could see him in that. David Henry doesn't age. This dude's still competing, and he's still
good. Yeah.
So
Eduardo Correa just won.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which I don't know what type of lineup, like what type of depth there was to that lineup to see that being a winning physique. I mean, he's peeled, but he's torn up everywhere. That structure is, man, he's ripped everything off the bone at this point.
Yeah, he's got like the physique of an old warrior who's like
skin's like fucking leather, dude. Yeah.
His quads don't even have separation anymore.
I know.
They're just peeled.
All right, I think that's a good spot to wrap it here because we'll just continue to ramble on. So all of these predictions have to throw this in. All of these predictions are subject to change, of course. Anybody wants to make any bets, hit me up in my DM. I'm happy to place bets on the Olympia. I'm a little bit of a degenerate when it comes to sports gambling. And so for Tommy Stiles, I'm Joseph PIRCHER. That was episode 30 of A Thinking Man's Podcast. Until next time, guys, we are out. A Thinking Man's Podcast.